this video is going to be a bit different. So for all of you who don't personally know me, I am a very unidentifiable person. Even I don't really know who I am a lot of the time, and I feel like I don't really belong anywhere ever. But I do have three characteristics that I always come back to, and at least by the end of this video, all three of them will be focuses of this channel. Those being music's the first one. Games, that could be from video games, which has been on the channel, to board games, to card games. I like all kinds of games. And the last one I have yet to interpret in the channel, which is character creation. So kind of like OC's, original character designing, either from drawing or writing or, anything of the sort. I'm arguably not good at any of these, but I very much enjoy doing each of them. And now that my channel has over 100 videos, and last I checked it had about 61 subscribers, we should probably get some extra, maybe a channel mascot, I was thinking, especially because it would allow me to kind of almost do thumbnails, because I could just use my original characters in hand-drawn art. That's kind of just the only problem, which is why I haven't done it for so long, is a lot of my art, and by a lot I mean 99% of my art, is just hand-drawn on paper, so it's very difficult to get it into a digital format without it looking really bad. And I've just picked two original characters that I'll go over later in the video, and we're gonna go over them soon. Those who are observing my channel intently enough, one, thank you, but two, you've probably noticed that the profile picture of the channel has changed, and that's just because I wanted to introduce these mascots, I guess, of the channel. They'll probably also be in the thumbnail of this video, and if they aren't on screen now, then they'll definitely be in the thumbnail. It's not really going to be a thumbnail, it's just kind of copy and paste of the profile picture most likely. But anyway, the two that you've either seen on my profile picture or you've seen from the thumbnail of this video where it's on screen now, or a combination of the three. There's a fox, or specifically a Kitsume. It's like a Japanese kind of mythical fox, and a bear. So one of them, the Kitsume, their real name or birth name is Ninetales Hitoshi. Very Japanese last name. And the bear is named Bernie, who is the original, where I got the channel name from. Bernie was probably the first character I ever created, drew, read about, anything. Ninetales, however, does go by a different name to people who don't personally know her, which is Kitsume with an M, and that's pretty much just because, regular foxes have one tail, and Ninetales has multiple tails. I'll probably refer to her just as Ninetales, because Kitsume, along with saying Kitsune, could get really not old, but it could sound a bit like not like a word if I say it too much. So I'll probably say Kitsume sometimes, but for the most part, at least during this video, I'll say Ninetales, so just be aware of that. So yeah, these two characters are actually dating, which is why they are both going to be kind of like the mascots of the channel, because it would be, in my opinion, a bit weird to have one of them and not the other. Even if Bernie is the name of the channel, I feel like we have to have Kitsume in there in some way, shape or form, so she's kind of going to be there. Also, I draw the most art of her, as opposed to Bernie, who I don't draw too much art of. Just because Bernie's got a pretty simplistic design, I just don't really draw him a whole lot. So if I wanted to, use a bunch of art for like community posts or video thumbnails, it just makes a whole lot more sense to use Ninetales in there along with Bernie, as it pretty much just means I'll have a lot more art to use. But yeah, so if you guys were just wanting the quick meet and greet, then that's where this video probably ends for you. The rest of the video is kind of just going to be going in depth about the characters. Warning, it is a little bit subtly dark, but that's supposed to be, that's supposed to be the case. I kind of made them, clouds with silver lining characters, so they have pretty subtly dark backstories, but they kind of, they've gotten through their younger years, and they're now living together in an apartment, kind of happy and content with life and each other. So just warning, it's a little subtly dark, so younger viewers, because I know I have a small amount of them, you might not want to watch any further. But for those who do care about the characters, that's where we're going to now get into. So I think I'll talk about Bernie first. So Bernie, he's a 26-year-old male belonging to the bear animal species, obviously. Bernie is incredibly smart and strong. However, his doubt and past experiences have obviously, stopped him from reaching his full potential. His doubt and past haunt him quite a lot, so he isn't as helpful in what he does. He's very kind of holding himself back, I guess. But he's holding himself back as little as possible, so he can try and still do good. His spare time is usually spent with trying to invent little thingamabobs and helpful objects. And in my kind of character created world, he kind of invented like what their world version of like the fidget spinner is. However, it's just not as successful as it was in the real world. He's invented a few other things. That one's just the first one that came to my mind. However, he also spends a lot of his time, and you'll see him a lot of the time, smoking cigarettes. This is one to numb the pain from his past, but also to pay tribute to his father that died when he was about 15, 16. So it's kind of like, connecting to his dead father, and also, numbing his past and numbing his doubt, so it's not so prevalent in his brain. He usually is found smoking in his father's old clothes, specifically with the ones that his father died in, and his father died while smoking, so it's an interesting little fun fact, I guess. But yeah, so he now owns his father's clothes and pretty much wears them whenever he's smoking. Sometimes he doesn't, when he's around people that he cares about or people that he can trust. such as Ninetales. But yeah, so Bernie ended up needing to leave school at around 15, 16, because his mother pretty much just got so distraught from her husband's death that she kind of just became heavily depressed. So Bernie needed to step up, obviously, get a full-time job to provide for the family. And then when Bernie's mother got news that the mother's mother and father had also died around this time, it kind of pushed her over the edge, and she ended up not being too far behind, which Bernie would then find out after coming home after a evening shift. So that wasn't fun, and that was probably very traumatizing for him. And this is about the time when he started smoking. Even when his father died, he didn't really smoke that much. Like, he hated the fact that his father was dead. And it did definitely push his self-worth and doubt a bit for a loop as well, but not as much as when his mother was dead and he was kind of forced to leave home and, go be completely on his own. That was when he started smoking, because he was definitely a lot more traumatized as well, especially from his mother's death than his father's, because his mother's wasn't as, nice and forgiving and sweet, I guess, as the father's. So that definitely gave him a lot of pain and stuff. So yeah, Bernie, although he had no friends, and he's not really that great socially still, but he especially wasn't back when he was like 15, 16. He wasn't social. He was social, but he wasn't good at like socializing. He couldn't really read the room that much. He kind of tried to be as nice of a person as possible, but sometimes he couldn't be. Some people sometimes took offense to what he was saying when he was trying to be nice or whatever. But even though he had no friends and he wasn't really sociable, he was noted as being very open and honest to pretty much everyone. Not like in a venting way where he'd vent about his stress or whatever, but just like, he was very overly open to people. If they really wanted to know about him, he would be glad to tell you. The only thing he would cut out pretty much was his mother's death and how traumatizing that was, for obvious reasons. So that's the only thing he really hid from anybody until Ninetales rolled around. So yeah, he went from low-paying job to low-paying job for like the next, pretty much next like 8 to 10 years, until he found Ninetales, as he finally decided to get a, shared apartment. Before this, he was just kind of living on his own, but he thought, may as well get a shared apartment, maybe make a friend, maybe make lasting friendships or relationships, who fucking knows. So he decided to get a shared apartment, and he got to the apartment at around 10 o'clock in the morning. He knocked on the door, and the person that answered was a very pretty small, messy-haired, kind of morning face Ninetales, who was, in ways, a lot more broken, actually, than he was. And that's where we get to Ninetales. So, Ninetales Satoshi, or to everyone that isn't close with her, Kitsume, is a 23-year-old young woman who, like Bernie, who was given a bad hand, really. She was really given a bad hand at life. And she's probably got the darker side to the story, so another warning in case anybody really needs a warning. But yeah, pretty much from the years of 5 to 19, everyone disliked her, everyone hated her, even her own family, really. She'd get picked on, bullied, beat, and a lot more than that. However, she'd never really make the rest of it clear. Like, those three were really the only ones that anybody ever knew about, and for the most part nobody really cared, which is just depressing. But I like the motivation that Ninetales gets from this kind of depressing backstory to kind of keep moving forward, I guess, even if she feels like it's impossible. So, like, she would, at this stage, when she didn't know any better, people could tell she would kill for the life of anybody around them or anyone around her, because obviously they seemed to be living so much of a better life where they didn't even need to worry about their problems. They could just kind of, if they were having a frustrating day, just beat up the little nine-tailed fox, and your problems are gone, at least temporarily. So yeah, she wasn't like very popular at all, and she couldn't really ever focus on school, even though she was almost abnormally smart, I believe is the word. I believe that's how you pronounce it. She's like crazy smart. She would be probably 200 something IQ, if IQ was relevant. I don't think that's relevant anymore. But she probably would have been like 200, 300 IQ if she could focus on school, which she couldn't because everyone hated her. But she's still an incredibly smart person either way. So at the age of 16, Ninetales was doing an experiment with her various liquids and potions, which she would do so pretty often. Kind of like, liquids and potions were kind of her clique, I guess. She was really into them and very into little random experiments. However, one day, her father walked in, and one of the potions pretty much just straight up exploded, and that caused a lot of damage to the house and also burnt her father, and that was pretty much the last straw for Ninetales' family. She pretty much was thrown onto the streets after that, and was pretty much there to fend for herself at the age of 16. So for the first little bit, she was kind of, this is probably the darker part, but because of her being on the streets, obviously, she didn't have a job. She didn't really have much of anything. So for the first bit, she was forced to kind of give away her body, and if anybody understands what that means, to stay alive, pretty much. She'd do it to get food, get water, maybe get shelter, although usually the shelter would just be provided from, just sitting in a bin or something, like kind of staying hidden and protected from the elements, but barely. But she eventually got a job, and she eventually got a small apartment that she would later share with Bernie, and it wasn't much, but it was much better than the streets, and she was fine with that for the time being, and she just, by this point, she realized she just had to keep moving forward. This is also around the time, now that she's got the apartment, where she starts kind of drinking, I guess. She kind of becomes an alcoholic, I guess you could say. So that's kind of like an extra little clique of Bernie and Ninetales, is that Bernie's an addicted smoker and Ninetales is an addicted alcoholic. So that's just kind of like an extra little bit. However, in most of the art that I'll probably show, like with Bernie smoking or whatever, they don't really see it as a negative. Like Bernie's always smiling and Ninetales is usually smiling, especially if she is currently drunk, which I have a few art of. I don't know if I'll ever show it, but if I do, it'll be pretty funny, I think. So yeah, pretty much that's their stories. I think there's a little bit more to Ninetales here actually that I've got written down in the script. So Ninetales, unlike Bernie, would be very closed off and caged. So Bernie would be really open about himself, and even though he was never really good with people, he would always be the guy that you could talk to, and he'd kind of try and look after you if you had problems. And if you really wanted to know about him, he'd die to tell you his story, and how even though he had a pretty shit and traumatizing experience that kind of greatly screwed him over, he's still fine, he's still not homeless, and he's still able to provide for himself. And he will be the one that will teach you that optimism is key, even if at times it doesn't feel like it. And even himself on the inside, a lot of the time he isn't optimistic at all. He's very caged himself on the inside, but outwardly he would be incredibly positive, incredibly open, and he would be the life of the party. And especially when he got older and he was able to be a little bit more sociable and read the room a bit better, he would get a few workmate friends and go to the pub with them every once in a while. Although Bernie wouldn't usually drink, he'd just smoke. But yeah, unlike Bernie, Ninetales would never tell anybody pretty much anything about her childhood. Part of her name change to Kitsume was pretty much because she was disowned by her family, so she couldn't really have her last name be known all that much, because obviously she and her family don't really want to relive those days. But also just because she doesn't want to be traced back to that kind of person. She really hated the person she was back as a child, kind of just took the punches and never really punched back. So she became one of those people. If you pissed her off, she would piss you off. She would punch you. She would attack you. She would insult you. And obviously, or not obviously, but a lot of social anxiety was arisen after her childhood. So when she did get her job, she mainly just sat in the apartment if she wasn't at her job, or getting a small amount of groceries every once in a while. Most of the time as well, she'd get takeout, which would be usually her food. She'd get delivered takeout because she just doesn't want to be outside as much as possible. She just wants to sit in her room, kind of, avoid the world, because she either hates herself or she hates the world. And she doesn't want to hate herself because she hated herself throughout most of her childhood. So she's now kind of taking it out on the world, I guess. So yeah, these two were pretty severely broken people. But they've by now found themselves and found each other, obviously. And, obviously now they're doing a whole lot better, which is why in pretty much all art you'll see whatever art I do make public on the channel, which I'm hoping to do, even if it's not that great quality. In all of the art they're smiling and they're happy, because even though they didn't have the greatest childhoods, they've found each other now and they care about each other, and they've moved on. They've accepted their younger years, their so-called prime time that wasn't so prime, and they've accepted that and they've moved on, and now they are happy as they are. They're happy where they are. They could be in a better place, but for now it's as much as they want. So yeah, because of obviously certain things in the story, I needed to be a bit more subtle with things, otherwise YouTube could age restrict the video or whatever. I might still myself age restrict it to 13 plus or something, but yeah, so the backstory is just kind of to show that these characters have, they've come back, I guess. So to show their perspective and show how they met, I guess, as I threw a little bit in about how they met. I have actually written quite a lot of stories that involve these two characters, so I could easily put them somewhere in the channel, maybe in community posts. I could snippet little stories, maybe, who knows. But yeah, that's pretty much their backstory. I think I actually did miss something here, because a lot of people actually like having this into the characters just so that they know the characters a bit more. Where is it? Here it is. Right, yeah. So obviously, because of the years Ninetales spent on the streets, her sexuality is asexual, of course. She's, for obvious reasons, if you don't understand why, then good for you, because it's kind of dark. And she did think she was also aromantic, so like asexual, for those who don't know, that's just she's not romantically attracted to anybody either. However, obviously, when Bernie came along, that did not happen to be the case. So sexually, she's asexual, but romantically, she is straight. She is straight fox. Bernie, however, is both pansexual and panromantic. One, because I figured one of these two needed to be like, something like, it couldn't really be gay, obviously, because they're dating, so that doesn't really make sense. But it had to be trans or something, because otherwise a lot of people would maybe get annoyed or think that I'm anti-LGBT for whatever reason. I know some people think that when there isn't any characters that are anything but straight, people think that they're against that. I'm definitely not against that, especially because Bernie's a self-insert. So yeah, moving on. So yeah, Bernie's kind of into everyone. He likes everyone. He's into everyone. He'll get to know everyone, and he'll definitely be the person you want to get to know, even if it's hard to know him sometimes, because he's still not the best socially, and he can still sometimes come across as something else. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching if you've made it this far. I'm looking at the time currently that this video's length is, and I was not expecting it to be that long. The script is actually relatively short. I kind of tried to increase its length to explain a little bit more in depth about certain things. But thank you if you did make it that far. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe or like the video. You can do that if you want. But this channel will pretty much remain unchanged no matter how many subscribers I have. Obviously, if I get a sudden influx of subscribers of doing a specific type of video game or a specific genre of music, I'll focus mostly on that, but I will still do whatever I feel I want to do at the time, even if it is slightly influenced by how my channel is doing subscriber and view wise. It'll mostly be uninfluential. I would also like to apologize for my voice in this video. It might be a bit echoey because the microphone I'm using isn't amazing. So my apologies. Probably should have said that at the start of the video anyway. And yeah, I guess obviously there's a few reasons why I've made this video and kind of now put these two in the middle of the channel. Pretty much because, like I said before, I want this channel to be as much me as possible. I want to put as much concentrated, pure, concrete me in there as possible. So it's got music, it's got video games, and now it'll have character stories and character creations. So yeah. Oh, actually, I don't know why I forgot, but I'll just say it now, sorry. Bernie weighs 65 kgs, and he's about 5.5 feet tall. And Ninetales weighs 60 kgs, so 5 less than Bernie, and she is 5.4 feet, so I don't know how much shorter that is. 0.1 feet shorter than Bernie. Sorry for using contrasting measurements. Usually you don't use feet and kgs in the same thing. Usually you'll use kgs and centimeters, kgs meters, or feet and pounds. But I kind of like feet and kgs. That's my preferred measurements. I usually use those, so sorry if that's annoying, because you don't know how high feet is in centimeters. It's pretty short, all things considered. At least 5.4 is pretty short, especially considering these 26 and 23-year-old people. But yeah, once again, hope you all enjoyed. Sorry that this video is a lot longer than I thought it would be. And yeah, hope you have a great day, great week, great life, and thanks for watching. No idea when the next upload will be, but hopefully you enjoy that as well. So thanks for watching.